Hello, welcome to the Learn English Lab. Today's podcast is 1 hour advanced English listening practice. Okay, let's jump right into this. You've definitely been there, right? You finish explaining something, a big project, a great story, a really important pitch. And the second the words are out, you just get that feeling that the delivery, it just failed. Your thoughts felt rushed. Everything was all jumbled up. And you walk away thinking, I know what I meant, but did they? Did they actually get it?
That sinking feeling.
Exactly. That moment you realize the sheer speed of how you spoke completely undermined the substance of what you were saying. That is what we're going to fix today. This deep dive is all about mastering what we call measured communication. And this isn't about, speaking in a monotone, boring voice or slowing down so much that people lose interest.
Not at all.
It's about finding this incredible clarity and using your pace and even silence as tools to connect with people and have a real impact.
When you think about the most compelling communicators out there.
Leaders, actors.
Right? Leaders, storytellers, they all have this one thing in common. It's a comfortable, deliberate pace. They aren't in a hurry. And that's really the core of what we're exploring. Our mission today is to give you the psychology behind it, some of the hard science, and the practical art of just slowing down.
So you can enunciate clearly and speak with, true authority.
And this applies to everything. From running a meeting at work to just having a better conversation with a friend, this is about learning to own the space your voice takes up.
So let's start at the beginning. Let's unpack why this happens. Why do we rush? Because if we can understand the cause, we can start to manage the effect.
That's the key.
We've identified 5, primary drivers for why people talk fast. And if you understand these, you can get a handle on it almost immediately.
The first one is probably the biggest and most obvious. It's a physical thing. Nerves and anxiety.
The classic fight or flight response.
Absolutely. Your body is basically hijacking your brain. When you get that performance anxiety, your sympathetic nervous system just kicks in.
Your heart starts racing.
Your heart rate goes up, adrenaline is pumping, and your mind just starts racing to keep up with that internal speed. And the goal, subconsciously, it shifts from communicate clearly to just get this over with.
Right. If I finish talking, the danger goes away.
That's what your brain is telling you. So the words just tumble out because you're trying to get rid of all that nervous energy.
Yeah.
But the problem is that rush leads to slurred words. You miss your pauses.
And you feel even less in control.
Exactly. It creates this vicious cycle where the anxiety makes you speak fast and the poor performance from speaking fast makes you more anxious next time.
What's so interesting is that the second driver is emotionally the complete opposite, but it has the same result.
Enthusiasm.
Yeah, being passionate about something.
It's a positive emotion, but it creates this flood of ideas. When you're really excited about a topic, the thoughts are just coming at you faster than you can cleanly articulate them.
You're so eager to get to the next point that you kind of steamroll the one you're on.
A great analogy is a train leaving the station too fast. The engine is so hot, it just yanks all the cars forward before the passengers, your listeners, have even found their seats.
So that energy is great, but it hurts their ability to actually retain what you're saying.
It does. They miss the details, the nuance, because they're just being hit with a fire hose of information.
Okay, so the third driver is less emotional and more environmental.
It's habit, pure and simple. We are sponges, we absorb the rhythms of the people around us.
So if you grew up in a family of fast talkers,
or if you work in an industry that's really high paced, like finance or maybe some tech startups, that rapid fire style just becomes your normal. It's your default setting.
It's like you're mirroring the communication style around you to fit in.
That's a perfect way to put it. It's communicative mirroring. And to break that habit, you have to be really conscious about it because you're going against behavior. Your brain is linked with, being part of the group. Slowing down literally feels weird.
Okay, this next one is fascinating to me. The fourth driver. It's this complete misconception, this idea that talking fast makes you sound smart or powerful.
And this is such a critical aha moment for people. We have this belief that speed equals mastery. That we can access ideas so quickly. But the research in sociolinguistics and psychology, it shows the exact opposite.
Really? How so?
Well, when a speaker uses a steady, deliberate pace, they project what's called cognitive authority.
Cognitive authority, I like that.
The pauses, the careful word choice, it sends a subconscious signal to the listener that you're in total control of the material. And maybe more importantly, in control of your emotions.
Whereas the rushed speaker seems, desperate.
Desperate to prove they know it. The measured speaker seems secure in it, and that security is what builds trust, credibility, and ultimately real influence. You earn authority by choosing your moments, not by racing through them.
That makes so much sense. By slowing down, you're showing you have the confidence to hold the floor for as long as you need.
Precisely. Which leads us right to the fifth and final cause. And this one is purely a defensive move.
The fear of being interrupted.
That's it. So many fast talkers are operating from this place of scarcity. They think, if I pause for even a second, someone else will jump in and I won't get to finish my point.
So they try to pack a whole paragraph into one single breathless sentence.
And the deep irony is that by rushing, you actually make your message harder to understand, which is the very thing that invites an interruption.
Because the listener is confused, they have to stop you to ask for clarification.
Right. So you're creating the very situation you were trying to avoid. Clear, measured pacing is what actually holds people's attention.
Okay, so we've dug into the why, the psychology, the habits. Now let's shift to the solution. What are the real scientific benefits of slowing down?
It's not just about sounding better. It's about working with the listener's brain, not against it.
And this starts with something called the cognitive load on the listener.
Yes. This is the hard science. You have to respect the fact that the human brain has processing limits. Study after study confirms that people process speech most comfortably, most efficiently, in a pretty narrow range.
And what is that range?
It's about 125 to 160 words per minute. That is the biological sweet spot for understanding language and actually remembering it.
But quick talkers, especially nervous or enthusiastic ones, can easily go way past that.
Oh, easily. They can hit 200, even 250 words per minute. And once you cross that threshold, something happens in the listener's brain.
What's that?
It shifts from processing meaning to just trying to process sound. It's working overtime just to decode what's being said.
So they're so busy trying to keep up, they can't actually think about what the words mean?
Exactly. It causes what's called attentional fatigue. The retention rate just plummets. If you make your audience work that hard, they will eventually just tune out. Slowing down is an act of respect for their brain power.
Which brings us to the speaker's secret weapon, which most people see as a weakness.
The power of the pause.
People are terrified of silence. They think it's awkward, it's dead air.
But scientifically, it's a necessity. Pauses, even tiny ones, are critical for a couple of reasons. First, they create a retention window.
A retention window?
Yes. When you deliver a key idea, a short pause right after gives the listener's brain a moment to sort of index that information, to file it away before the next piece arrives. It's like hitting the save button.
So the silence is actually where the learning happens.
In many ways, yes. And the second benefit is structural. Pauses act like punctuation. They're the periods and commas of speech. They clearly mark where one idea ends and the next one begins.
So you're guiding the listener instead of making them try to figure out the structure on their own.
That's it. It's controlled, it's intentional, and it keeps people engaged because they can follow your train of thought.
So if you're listening and you're thinking, okay, what are the immediate results? The material lays out 5 really concrete benefits you'll see right away.
The first one is the most obvious, but also the most important. Improved comprehension for your audience. They'll just get it better.
And for the speaker themselves.
A huge increase in confidence and a sense of control. The physical act of controlling your pace makes you feel more grounded.
The third one is huge for so many people. A significant reduction in filler words.
Oh, this one is life-changing.
All those ums and ohs and likes.
They're just placeholders. Your brain uses them when it's searching for the next thought. But if you consciously insert a moment of silence instead, that pause does the exact same job.
It gives you that microsecond to think.
But without the verbal clutter. And that silence is perceived as thoughtfulness, not hesitation.
So you instantly sound more competent.
Instantly. The fourth benefit is a stronger overall presence. When you're measured, people lean in. They anticipate what's coming next.
And the final one, which is key in any professional setting.
Greater influence. Your words land with actual weight and authority instead of just washing over people in a blur.
All right, so we've covered the why and the what. Let's make this personal. We want you, the listener, to do a quick self-assessment.
Honesty is key here.
Let's run through a quick checklist. First question. Do people frequently ask you to repeat yourself or to clarify what you just said?
That's a big red flag. If "what was that" is a common response, your pace is likely the issue.
Here's a physical one. Are you often out of breath after talking, even for just a little while?
Rushing uses shallow chest breathing. It literally runs you out of air and your voice loses its power.
What about your audience? Do you see confusion on their faces? Disengagement, people checking their phones?
If you're seeing blank stares, you're probably overloading their cognitive capacity.
And the last one, be really honest with yourself. Are you aware of using a lot of filler words? Especially when you're switching between ideas?
If you answered yes to any of those, that's great news.
It is.
Yes, because it means you know exactly where to start. And we're going to start with the absolute foundation of calm communication. Technique number 1, breath control.
Right, moving away from that shallow chest breathing.
We have to. A voice without proper air support is weak and unclear. We need to shift to what's called diaphragmatic or belly breathing.
Can you walk us through that?
Sure. Put one hand on your chest, the other on your stomach. When you inhale, you want to feel your stomach expand outward while your chest stays pretty still. Then exhale slowly.
And why is that specific motion so important?
Because that deep, slow breath actually stimulates something called the vagus nerve. It's the main nerve of your parasympathetic nervous system, the system that tells your body to calm down.
So you're physically signaling to your brain that there's no emergency.
You're short-circuiting that anxiety response. It immediately kills the impulse to rush.
And there's another exercise tied to this, silent counting.
This is great to do right before a meeting. Just inhale for a slow count of 4, hold it, and then exhale for a count of 8. Do that for a minute or 2. And what does that do? It slows your heart rate, calms your nerves, and sets a calm, unhurried rhythm inside your body that will carry over directly into your speaking pace. If you control your breath, you control your voice.
And that foundation of breath leads right into technique 2, deliberate pausing.
This is a huge mindset shift. Pauses aren't mistakes. They are tools of mastery.
They buy you time to think and the audience time to absorb.
Right. So let's talk about how to use them strategically. First, just try inserting a simple 1-second pause at the end of a key sentence. You make an important point, pause. Let it land.
The second use case is as a direct replacement for those filler words we talked about.
This is retraining your brain. When you feel the urge to say, just stop, be silent for that half second instead. It feels weird at first, but it's incredibly powerful.
And the third way is more for dramatic effect.
The dramatic pause. Use a longer one, maybe a full 2 seconds, right before you deliver your most crucial point. It builds anticipation. It makes everyone in the room focus on what you're about to say.
A great way to practice this is to just record yourself reading something out loud.
Yes. Take a paragraph from a book, mark where you're going to pause, and then listen back. What feels like an eternity of silence to you will sound perfectly natural and clear to the listener.
So pace is one half of the equation, but now we need to get into the other half.
The mechanics. Even slow speech is useless if it's mumbled. So now we're talking about technique 3, enunciation. Making crisp, clean words.
Why is this so crucial?
Because even if your speed is perfect, it's say 140 words per minute, if you're slurring words or dropping the ends of them, the listener's brain still has to work hard to decode the sounds. We want every word to be a distinct, fully formed unit.
And the best way to practice this is something called the over-articulation exercise.
It feels a little silly, but it works. You take a tongue twister, something like unique New York or red leather, yellow leather, and you say it slowly in front of a mirror, exaggerating every single mouth movement.
You're basically taking your mouth to the gym.
That's a perfect analogy. You're strengthening those muscles. And when you go back to your normal conversational speech, it will be naturally clearer and more precise, without sounding over the top.
You also mentioned consonant drills.
We get lazy with consonants, especially the end of words. The T in want, the D in and. You have to make a conscious effort to pronounce those fully. Otherwise, your words just mush together.
Okay, let's shift from the physical to the mental. Technique 4. Visualize your listener's experience.
This is about empathy. Great communication means you have to step into your audience's shoes.
And how do you do that in a practical way?
The best tactic is to imagine you're explaining your topic to someone who knows absolutely nothing about it, a total beginner.
That forces you to be clear.
It forces you to build the structure, define your terms, and not assume any prior knowledge, which, by the way, benefits everyone, even the experts in the room.
You also need to be clear on your main takeaways.
Yes. Don't try to communicate 10 things. If you have 10 minutes, you have maybe 3 core points. Frame your entire talk. Every pause, every emphasis around making sure those 3 points land.
All right, let's make this tangible. Technique 5. Controlling and measuring your speed.
We need a target. Remember that sweet spot is 120 to 160 words per minute. Let's aim for the middle, around 145, especially for dense or technical information.
But how do you know what your current speed is?
It's actually easy to measure. Find a passage of text that's exactly 150 words long, read it out loud at your normal pace, and time yourself. If it takes you 60 seconds, you're at 150 words per minute. Perfect.
And if it takes, say, 45 seconds?
Then you're at 200 words per minute, and you know you need to slow down. It gives you a real, quantifiable benchmark.
Now, here's the key adjustment that feels strange.
It feels very strange. When you're practicing, you need to consciously slow down until it feels almost weird to you. That sensation, that internal feeling of being too slow.
It's probably just right for the listener.
It is. Your discomfort is the sign that you're successfully overriding that old rushing habit. You have to embrace that weird feeling. It means it's working.
So we've covered the words themselves, but clarity is also supported by everything else. Your body, your mindset.
They're all connected. Which brings us to technique 6. Use body language to reinforce your pacing.
Your posture is a big one.
It's huge. When you stand or sit up straight with your shoulders back, you feel more grounded. You also open up your chest, which gives your lungs more room for those deep diaphragmatic breaths we talked about.
So a confident posture encourages a more confident, slower delivery.
It does, naturally. And the flip side is to watch your gestures. Avoid fidgeting, tapping a pen, shifting your weight. That nervous energy translates directly into a faster speaking tempo.
Your gestures should be deliberate, timed with your points.
Right. Now let's talk about the internal part. Technique 7 is a big one. The mindset shift. You have to change your intention.
What do you mean by that?
You have to replace the goal of, I need to get through this fast, with a new intention. My only job is to share my message clearly.
It's a shift from self-protection to audience service.
Exactly. And you can anchor this with a few affirmations. Before you speak, tell yourself, my ideas matter. The listeners want to understand.
It validates your right to be there.
Another one is, every pause helps my message land. This reframes silence as a powerful tool, not a weakness.
And my favorite, I have the right to take up space.
That one directly combats the anxiety that makes people rush. You deserve the time it takes to speak clearly.
Okay, finally in this section, let's talk about how you actually structure your thoughts. Technique 8, chunking.
This is so important. You have to break your ideas down into short, meaningful units or chunks. Avoid those long, winding, complex sentences.
Can you give us an example of the difference?
Sure. A typical rushed, unchunked sentence might sound like this. So today we need to discuss the new strategy, which involves 3 resources and a new reporting structure, because Q3 numbers were bad, which means we have to act fast.
It's just one long, breathless stream, exhausting to listen to.
Right. Now here's the same information, but chunked. Each period is a deliberate pause. Today, we'll analyze the new implementation strategy, pause. This strategy requires 3 key resources. Pause. It also means we'll have a revised reporting structure. Pause. Why? The Q3 review revealed a clear problem. Pause. We need to address this immediately.
Wow, it's the same information, but it's crystal clear.
Because each idea is a separate, digestible unit. You're building the clarity right into the structure of your speech.
Okay, so we have the techniques. Now we need to put them into practice. Let's talk about some real-life applications.
This is where it gets real. Let's start with a scenario. We'll call him Alex, the meaning rambler.
Alex is smart, but gets really nervous in meetings and just starts talking a mile a minute, mumbling, and no one really listens.
So Alex adopts a pre-meeting routine. 10 minutes before, Alex does the belly breathing exercise, the 4 ins, 8 out count. It calms the nervous system.
And then Alex visualizes the 3 points he wants to make as 3 separate chunks.
Exactly. Then, in the meeting, when he's asked a question, he takes a full 1-second pause before he starts talking. And he ends each chunk of information with another deliberate pause.
What's the result?
It's immediate. His points are heard. They're clear. People actually understand him the first time, so they stop asking so many clarifying questions. The feedback he gets is about how concise and insightful he was.
Okay, scenario 2. Priya, the fast-talking presenter. She's a technical expert, but she just flies through her slides. Great content, but no one can keep up.
So Priya gets very tactical. She prints out her script and physically uses a highlighter to mark where she will insert a mandatory 2-second pause.
So she's scripting her silence.
She is. And she records herself practicing over and over, forcing her pace down to that 145 words per minute target. It feels painfully slow to her.
But the recording proves it sounds perfect.
Right. Then during the presentation, she uses her body, plants her feet, slows her gestures. And the result is the audience isn't struggling anymore. They're engaged. And the questions she gets at the end are deep, thoughtful questions, not, can you go back to slide 3?
That's a huge sign of success.
A massive one.
And our last scenario is for everyday life. Jordan, who just talks so fast that friends and family can't follow their stories.
Jordan starts a daily practice. Every morning, reads an article out loud, focusing on hitting every consonant. In conversations, Jordan makes a point of letting the other person finish completely, then takes a breath before responding.
Replacing that with a silent breath.
Yes. And when telling a story, Jordan deliberately pauses for a full second before the punchline. The result is people start saying their stories are more compelling, more engaging, they feel more connected.
This all really highlights the importance of active listening while you're speaking. It's a two-way street.
It's a feedback loop. When you're calm and measured, you can actually pay attention to your audience. You can watch for the nonverbal cues.
The furrowed brow, that means confusion.
Or the glance at the phone, that means you've lost them. And when you see that, that's your cue to slow down even more and maybe rephrase what you just said.
You can also build in what you call conversational checkpoints.
Simple things. Just pausing to ask, does that make sense so far? Or, let me stop here for any questions. It keeps everyone on the same page.
And of course, the context matters. You wouldn't use the same pace in a formal speech as you would in a one-on-one chat.
Absolutely not. In public speaking, you want to open with a strong, confident pause. Use longer pauses between major sections. And articulate technical words with extra care.
And in a group discussion.
Active listening is king. Wait for a natural break. Maybe even restate someone else's point to show you are listening before you add your own.
What about on a video call or phone call?
You have to slow down even more. Digital connections can distort things. Use shorter sentences and check for understanding more often because you're missing some of those body language cues.
And in a regular conversation.
Try to match the other person's pace, more or less. But never, ever sacrifice your clarity for their speed. And if they interrupt you, don't speed up to finish. Just pause, wait, and then calmly resume your point. It signals control.
Okay, so we're getting into how to make this a permanent skill. Let's talk about the common barriers people face when they try to put this into practice long term.
The first one is a big psychological hurdle, the fear of judgment. People worry that if they pause, they'll sound, dumb, unprepared.
When the reality is the exact opposite.
The complete opposite. A calm, steady pace projects confidence and mastery. People appreciate it when you make it easy for them to understand you. They're far more likely to judge you for being confusing than for being thoughtful.
The second barrier is just that old habit of filler words.
And this just takes constant vigilance. You have to actively police yourself and replace with a moment of silence. You have to retrain your brain to see silence as your friend.
And the third barrier, I hear this one a lot, but I don't want to sound robotic.
That's such a common misconception. Measured pace does not equal monotone. The best orators in the world vary their pitch, their tone, their volume, all while maintaining a steady, unrushed delivery. Rushing kills your ability to be dynamic. Control enables it.
For those who want to take this even further, what are some advanced practice opportunities?
Joining a group like Toastmasters is fantastic. It's a safe place to practice and get structured feedback from peers on your pacing and clarity.
You could also work with a professional speech coach.
If the stakes are really high, a coach can give you personalized one-on-one guidance that can accelerate your progress immensely.
And then there are things like mindfulness practices.
Yes, meditation, yoga, anything that helps reduce your baseline anxiety. When you're calmer in general, the urge to rush just isn't as strong.
We can also use technology to help us.
For sure. There are transcription apps. You can record yourself in a meeting, run it through the app, and get a written text.
And you'll see all the run-on sentences and filler words.
Seeing it in black and white is a powerful motivator. You could also use dedicated speech training apps that give you real-time feedback on your speed and clarity.
Or just the voice recorder on your phone.
Simple, but incredibly effective. Record, listen, self-correct. It's the fastest feedback loop there is.
And it really helps to study the masters, right? Listen to people who do this well.
Oh, absolutely. Think about someone like Barack Obama. His pacing is incredibly deliberate. He uses pauses to give his ideas weight.
Or the poet Maya Angelou.
Her cadence was just iconic. She made every single word matter because of the patience in her delivery.
And of course, the voice of Morgan Freeman.
The definition of clear, measured, influential speech. He never, ever rushes. He understands that control is influence. Listen to how they use silence.
Okay, let's bring this all together. Let's create a simple daily routine for our listeners.
Let's do it. We call it the 4-step clarity first routine.
Step 1.
Warm up. Before any important conversation, take 60 seconds. Do a tongue twister, read a sentence out loud with exaggerated enunciation. Prepare your instrument.
Step 2. Set an intention.
This is mental. Before you speak, just remind yourself, my goal is to be understood, not to finish fast. That becomes your compass.
Step 3 is to be present.
This is the hard part. As you're speaking, pay attention to your breathing and your pace. If you feel yourself starting to rush, just stop. Take one deep, calming breath, and then resume at a slower speed. That real-time correction is how you build the new habit.
And the final step, number 4.
Review and reflect. After the conversation, take a minute. What worked well? Where did you speed up and why? Based on that, you know what you need to focus on in your practice for next time.
Let's wrap up with a couple of quick FAQs. People worry that speaking slowly will make them seem less confident.
It's the opposite. It exponentially increases your perceived confidence and authority. Speed signals panic. Control signals mastery.
And what if someone does interrupt you during one of those strategic pauses?
Use your body language. Maintain eye contact. Keep your posture firm. And if you need to, just say calmly, let me just finish this thought, and then continue in that same measured tone. It shows you're still in control.
And how long should a pause be?
It varies. A natural break between ideas is maybe half a second. A pause to mark a new section could be a full second. And you save that big 2-second dramatic pause for right before or after your most important point.
So mastering clear, measured speech, it really is more than just changing your speed. It's about empowering your voice and making sure your ideas are truly understood. It builds confidence, and it fundamentally changes how people perceive you.
It's a skill that pays dividends in every area of your life.
So embrace that intention, commit to the practice, and be patient. The results will come.
And to leave you with one final thought to reflect on. If we know that intentional pauses increase retention and signal importance, what is the single most important idea in your life right now that deserves a full 2-second pause after you share it with the world? What idea deserves that moment of silence?
Like, share, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. Welcome to The Deep Dive, the place where we take all the articles, research, and expert insights you need to know and just deliver them straight into your brain, fully digested, ready to go.
And today, we are tackling a monster of a topic. I mean, it's a concept that causes, I think, untold misery and just so much unnecessary frustration for millions of dedicated learners around the globe.
And that concept, which is so surprising, is fluency.
Exactly. Specifically, this insidious, pervasive myth that we all seem to carry about what linguistic fluency actually is, and the terrible trap we fall into when we confuse genuine mastery with well, just sheer velocity. We're calling it the speed trap.
Okay, let's unpack this immediately, because I think everyone listening, you recognize this feeling we're about to describe. We've got all this source material, notes detailing the cognitive load of language production, the surprising reality of native speech patterns, and the critical importance of all these non-speed related skills. So our mission today is pretty clear: to dismantle this belief that fluency just equals speaking velocity, and to give you a liberating cognitive framework for what true mastery actually entails.
And where better to start than, I think, the most relatable situation on earth? The dreaded dinner party test.
Oh, it's universal, isn't it? You've invested time, energy, mental resources into learning a new language. Let's say Spanish or Mandarin. You can read complex articles, you can text your friends, you can hold a decent, 15-minute conversation.
But then someone, and it's always a well-meaning relative or curious colleague, they ask, so are you fluent yet?
And you feel that deep, gut-wrenching internal hesitation. You might get defensive, right? You say, well, I can communicate, but I'm not really fluent. That question immediately triggers this internal panic, this measurement against some arbitrary standard.
Exactly. And we have to ask, why do we hesitate? What is that mental image that the word fluent immediately conjures up for us?
It's not the person who communicates accurately and politely. It's almost always that rapid, effortless speaker. The words are just flowing like a high-pressure river, someone who can instantly fire back a perfectly constructed reply the moment the other person stops talking.
And this isn't just some modern societal pressure. The very etymology of the word, it reinforces this destructive idea. Fluent comes from the Latin fluere, which means to flow.
To flow.
Right. And that root, while it's descriptive of ease, it just embeds this association of speed and uninterrupted smoothness deep into our subconscious metrics for success.
So we're conditioned to believe that if our language isn't rushing out of us like water from a high-pressure tap, we must be failing. We start measuring our progress by response time, and we feel this deep, profound embarrassment when we have to pause for even a second to search for a word.
And that's why we have to start this deep dive with our core problem statement. This speed-based definition is fundamentally cognitively and linguistically wrong. It doesn't just mislead us or set unrealistic expectations. It actively sabotages the learning journey.
It prioritizes an unsustainable velocity over genuine communicative quality and connection.
Exactly. So our mission is to perform an intervention. We're going to use cognitive science, linguistic research, and cultural context to just dismantle this myth of speed-based fluency.
And then reconstruct a new, accurate, and I think achievable definition focused on efficiency, on automaticity, and effectiveness, not, racing the clock.
Let's do it.
So where does this obsessive drive for speed actually come from? Because it's not arbitrary, right? It's rooted in several interlocking misunderstandings. And the biggest one, you argue, is what you call the native speaker fallacy.
Absolutely. The illusion is incredibly powerful. When we listen to native speakers conversing casually, especially in groups or during a fast-paced conversation, they appear to be speaking incredibly quickly.
Right. It feels overwhelming.
It does.
Yeah.
The words seem to just tumble out effortlessly, creating this rhythmic, unbroken momentum that we feel like we can never, ever match. Yeah, but here's the thing. We are fundamentally mistaking flow for actual velocity.
And this is where the data gets genuinely surprising. We hear this continuous stream, but the actual metric, the words per minute, it tells a different, much slower story. So what is the reality of casual native English speech?
The cold, hard reality is that native English speakers, when they're in a spontaneous, casual conversation, they average only about 120 to 150 words per minute.
Wait, 120 to 150? That feels so slow.
It is. Think about that for a moment. A professional, trained audiobook narrator whose job is to read clearly, efficiently, and often a little bit fast to maximize consumption, they read at about 150 to 160 WPM. The average conversational native speaker is actually slower than professional reading speed.
So if native speech is only 120 to 150 WPM, why does my brain feel like it's drowning when I listen? What is the illusion made of? Why does it feel so much faster than it actually is?
That is the perfect question. The illusion is made of something called connected speech and phonological reduction. Native speakers don't pronounce every single word with equal weight and clarity and separation. They run words together.
Like going to becomes gonna.
Precisely. They reduce unstressed vowels to that schwa sound. They delete sounds, becomes,
So it's not the WPM count that's confusing the non-native ear. It's the fact that the boundaries between those 120 words are all blurred. So the learner has to spend cognitive energy just reconstructing those blurred boundaries, which makes the whole process feel frantic, even if the pace is moderate.
Exactly. The non-native listener is expending enormous cognitive resources trying to parse where one word ends and the next begins. The native speaker's continuous rhythm, coupled with the blurring of word boundaries, it creates a subjective experience of speed that is physically misleading.
It's a critical distinction then. Flow is about rhythm and connectedness. Speed is about velocity.
And we reserve the term truly fast speakers for people in very specific roles.
Right, where communication quality is almost secondary to just information density.
Precisely. Those are the people hitting 250 to 400 WPM auctioneers, who are legally required to race through disclaimers or, sports commentators describing rapidly unfolding action. But nobody would suggest that the auctioneer's monologue is the ideal of fluent, nuanced, or thoughtful communication.
No, they're just maximizing output, not connection.
Exactly. So the speed is an illusion. And when you look closer, when you actually transcribe native speech, you find that the conversation is incredibly messy, which contributes to the feeling of flow, but certainly not velocity.
Transcribing native speech is a revelation for learners, isn't it? What looks like the smooth, effortless river of liquid is actually a winding river full of rocks and debris.
You find constant repetitions. I was thinking about going. You find false starts and immediate self-corrections. We should probably, I think it makes more sense to just hold off for now.
And the fillers, and that we as language learners feel we must eliminate to be considered fluent.
But the fillers are constant, and they perform a critical linguistic function. They're not just hesitation, they're turn-holding devices. They signal to the listener, I am pausing to plan my next linguistic move, but I haven't ceded the floor, so please don't interrupt.
So they maintain conversational momentum without requiring you to actually produce grammatical sentences. That's a key fluent skill in itself.
It is. And the pauses. We, as non-native speakers, often feel like we can't take a pause without signaling failure or inadequacy, but native speakers pause all the time, often for long stretches, right in the middle of a sentence.
And they're totally comfortable doing it.
Totally. Native speech is often full of syntactically incomplete sentences, fragments, elliptical speech, where the context just replaces the grammatical structure. The communication works because the listener fills in the gaps, the speakers use shared context, and the overall goal of information transfer proceeds without a glitch.
So we're striving for this standard of smooth grammatical perfection that even native speakers don't come close to achieving on a moment-to-moment basis. But that pressure isn't just internal, is it? It's reinforced by the systems we learned in. Let's talk about the classroom legacy.
Oh, traditional teaching methods bear a significant responsibility for the speed myth, 100%, because they were historically focused on testing immediate recall. Just think about the structure of oral exams, vocabulary quizzes.
Right. Rapid recall is rewarded. You see a sentence in the target language, you have to instantly translate it. Any hesitation, even for a millisecond, is often perceived by the teacher and marked down as uncertainty or a lack of mastery.
And this creates this deep-seated Pavlovian psychological conditioning that equates speed with success and hesitation with failure. Students are rewarded for reflexively blurting out the answer, even if the answer is slightly less accurate, simply because it was fast.
And they internalize this equation so thoroughly that they carry it into their adult self-learning journeys. The psychological pressure to respond instantly just remains embedded in their subconscious long after they've left the oral exam stage. They fear that gap of silence.
And if the classroom wasn't enough, media and entertainment have just cemented this myth, making these unrealistic expectations part of our global cultural fabric.
We've been fed a diet of cinematic shorthand. When Hollywood needs to establish quickly that a character is linguistically brilliant, a super spy, a brilliant diplomat, a polyglot academic, how do they show it?
Through rapid-fire conversations, effortless and instant code switching between languages, and instantaneous responses to complex questions.
Yeah, the character who pauses thoughtfully for 5 seconds to construct a nuanced reply is rarely the one portrayed as the linguistic powerhouse. Instead, they give us the West Wing or Gilmore Girls version of speaking, just a barrage of flawless, rapid-fire dialogue.
Exactly. And every time we see a protagonist instantly translating some complex geopolitical statement or smoothly navigating a multilingual social situation with speed of thought production, it just reinforces the lie that true fluency means instant, flawless language. It sets an impossibly high and totally manufactured bar.
So learners start measuring their own progress against these cinematic expectations. And when their own reality, which is full of necessary pauses, messy grammar, searching for the right word, doesn't match the movie version, anxiety spirals, and it leads to the self-fulfilling prophecy of linguistic failure.
It's a vicious cycle.
So if we agree that speed is the wrong metric, we need to understand the cognitive alternative. Let's shift our perspective entirely, moving from the outside, that misleading noise we hear, to the inside, what the human brain is actually doing when we communicate.
Right. What does the cognitive architecture of language production actually tell us?
Walk us through it.
The brain is coordinating multiple, highly complex processes simultaneously whenever we speak. In psycholinguistics, we break language production down into 3 main, interconnected, and resource-intensive stages. And understanding these stages shows us exactly why rushing is just disastrous.
Okay, so what's the first stage?
First, you have conceptualization. This is the highest level of planning. It's figuring out the intent, what you want to say. This involves accessing the meaning, organizing your thoughts logically, establishing the general shape of the message, and deciding on the rhetorical goal. Am I persuading? Am I explaining? Am I complaining?
And for a non-native speaker, conceptualization can be hampered by an inability to think in the target language, right? Forcing them to conceptualize first in their native tongue.
Absolutely, which adds this whole other layer of delay and complexity. But even if they are thinking directly in the target language, they move quickly to stage 2. Formulation.
And this is where the meaning becomes language.
This is the translation stage. You take that organized thought and turn it into linguistic form. This means selecting precise words, lexical selection, and applying the grammar syntactic planning. This is where your verb conjugations, case endings, prepositions, word order, it all gets slotted into place.
This, I imagine, is the biggest bottleneck for learners. They might know the rules, but applying them isn't effortless yet.
Precisely. For the non-native speaker, formulation demands massive cognitive oversight. They're consciously monitoring this grammar loop. Is this tense correct? Should the adjective go before or after the noun? For a native speaker, 99% of formulation is subconscious. For a learner, it's a manual, exhausting, conscious checklist.
And the final stage.
Articulation. This is the physical execution, commanding the vocal cords, tongue, lips, and lungs to produce the sounds according to the phonetics of the language. This also includes monitoring your own output, your auditory feedback, to make sure what you said actually matches what you intended to say.
It sounds exhausting. But this brings us to the crucial distinction that really solves the entire speed myth problem: automaticity versus velocity.
This is the core cognitive insight. What truly characterizes skilled, fluent language use is automaticity, which refers to how much conscious mental attention a process requires. Automaticity is a measure of efficiency and cognitive effort conservation. It is not a measure of speed.
I think the driving analogy is absolutely perfect here for explaining that difference.
It's the clearest example. Think about when you first learned to drive a car, especially a manual. Every single action was conscious, deliberate, and slow. Checking mirrors, judging the clutch, accelerating, steering, monitoring traffic signs. It demanded 100% of your cognitive focus.
You couldn't listen to the radio or talk to a passenger.
Not a chance. But once you're an experienced, fluent driver,
Well, the physical actions, operating the pedals, changing gears, checking the rearview mirror, they become automatic. They shift from being these conscious, effortful processes to unconscious, automated routines. Your mind is freed up.
it conserves resources, which are now available for higher-level conceptual tasks like listening to a podcast or planning your day or having a detailed conversation. Fluent speech is exactly the same. We want verb conjugation and word order to run on autopilot, freeing up our resources for that high-level conceptualization.
So automaticity is the goal. We want the mechanism of the language to run efficiently on autopilot. But here's the counterintuitive point that really challenges the speed myth. This efficiency does not inherently mean speed.
Absolutely. Automaticity does not require velocity. You can execute an automatic process at the precise pace that's appropriate for the situation. Imagine that experienced driver navigating a dense, icy, complex city street at 5 miles per hour. The operation of the car is still completely automatic, but the pace is necessarily slow, deliberate, and careful because the environment demands deliberation.
Or like a jazz musician. They can play a slow, measured ballad, but the quality of the playing is still based on the complete automaticity of their fingers and scales, which allows their conscious mind to focus entirely on artistic phrasing and emotion. The automaticity is about the quality and the ease of the process, not its velocity.
That is the key takeaway. And when learners ignore this and they force speed, they encounter the infamous working memory and cognitive load trap.
Our working memory is it's a severely limited resource. When we pressure it with speed, everything breaks down.
Rushing is fundamentally counterproductive in any complex cognitive task, and language production is among the most complex. When a learner pressures themselves to speak quickly, a disproportionate amount of their limited cognitive resource is immediately consumed by monitoring the performance.
So you're managing intense anxiety, monitoring your pace, evaluating yourself. Am I fast enough? Did I just make a mistake? I need to hurry.
Yes. And all those critical resources that are burned up by anxiety and speed monitoring are then completely unavailable for the actual productive work of communication.
So the math is unforgiving. If 70% of your cognitive capacity is spent trying to sound fast, only 30% is left for the actual work of selecting precise words, constructing clear, grammatically robust sentences, and formulating complex ideas.
The moment you prioritize velocity, you actively deprioritize quality. You end up saying something fast but vague or fast but riddled with formulation errors because you just didn't have the mental capacity to monitor that grammar loop.
I can see a listener pushing back on this, though. They might argue, but don't I need to practice speaking fast initially just to build muscle memory? If I always speak slowly, won't I forever be slow?
That's a highly logical and a very common misconception. But the goal of practice is not just to build muscle memory, it's to build accurate muscle memory. If you practice fast and inaccurately, you're essentially training your brain that the wrong response is the fastest and easiest path.
You're paving the wrong road.
You are. The correct trajectory is to practice slowly and accurately until the accurate response becomes automatic. Once accuracy is automatic, the speed can increase naturally and sustainably without the cognitive load collapsing. You have to build a foundation of automaticity first, and speed is the natural byproduct of that efficiency, not the starting point.
Okay, so we filed the stopwatch in the trash. If words per minute is irrelevant and automaticity is the process, we need to understand what the actual measurable outcomes of true fluency are. What are the criteria that linguists and communication experts actually use to define mastery?
We need to move away from the single metric of velocity and embrace fluency as a comprehensive composite score. There are 5 key components that define a genuinely fluent speaker, and none of them rely solely on speed.
Okay, let's start with number 1, which has to be the absolute core purpose of language itself: communicative effectiveness.
This is paramount. At its heart, fluency is about successfully conveying meaning and achieving your specific communicative goals. Did you explain the process clearly? Did you persuade the client? Did you connect emotionally with your friend? Your fluency is measured by how well you succeed in that goal relative to the context.
And speed plays a minimal role here, sometimes even a negative one.
Often negative. We see this in high-stakes communication. Highly effective public communicators like Abraham Lincoln or figures like Warren Buffett are known for speaking thoughtfully and methodically. They use a measured pace to increase the impact and allow for surgical word choice.
Like a skilled negotiator, they intentionally slow down their pitch or their response.
They do this because deliberation signals authority, and it ensures every word is chosen for maximum strategic effect.
So effectiveness depends on 4 distinct qualities: clarity, accuracy, appropriateness, and engagement. And rushing undermines all 4 of them.
It's a 4-way sacrifice. Rushing ruins clarity by forcing vague phrasing. It ruins accuracy by skipping over grammatical checks. It ruins appropriateness because you don't have time to consider the register. And it absolutely ruins engagement because you're focused on yourself, not the listener.
Okay, moving on to component number 2, linguistic range. This is about the depth and breadth of the speaker's available toolkit.
A truly fluent speaker has access to a wide range of vocabulary, syntactic structures, and idiomatic expressions. And crucially, they know how to shift between registers formal versus casual, technical versus layperson effortlessly.
Which allows them to discuss diverse topics and find alternative, clearer ways to express an idea if the first attempt fails.
Exactly. I like the chess grandmaster analogy here. A grandmaster's mastery isn't shown by how quickly they move a piece. Their deliberation, which might take 5 or 10 minutes for a critical move, reflects an enormous depth of strategic understanding.
They aren't slow because they lack skill. They are slow because they are considering 20 different high-level options and all their consequences.
Precisely. Similarly, the fluent language user has access to this vast repertoire of structures, and they use the pause to select the one that will deliver maximum effect. The time taken reflects depth of strategy, not lack of vocabulary.
Component number 3 shifts the focus entirely from output to input. Comprehension depth or perceptive fluency.
Right, because fluency is not just about what you say, it's about what you absorb. A truly fluent speaker grasps nuance, detects subtle tone shifts, recognizes implication, and understands complex cultural references or sarcasm. They process the language deeply, not just superficially.
And if you're stuck in that anxiety loop of focusing on generating your next response quickly, you completely miss all those subtleties in the input.
You are guaranteed to miss them. The speaker who listens carefully and processes the information thoroughly, even if they need a moment to formulate a thoughtful, relevant response, is often far more fluent in that interactive moment than the quick responder who missed a crucial detail or misinterpreted the tone.
So true fluency starts with profound listening.
It has to.
Okay, number 4 is the skill that truly separates the polished communicators from those who only perform well in a classroom. Repair and recovery.
This is the essential ability to recognize that communication has hit a roadblock, a misspoken word, a grammatical error, a listener misunderstanding, and to fix it smoothly. All speakers, native or not, hit these road bumps.
And the fluent speaker doesn't panic and try to rush past it.
No, they stop, they rephrase, they clarify, they provide an example, or they ask a confirming question.
This is a skill that absolutely demands patience and strategic deceleration. You have to slow down to repair effectively.
It requires strategic deceleration because effective repair is diagnostic. You have to stop the forward momentum, analyze what went wrong, and approach the communication challenge from a different, clearer angle. If you rush past a critical misunderstanding, you haven't demonstrated fluency. You've merely demonstrated an inability to manage real-time feedback.
And finally, number 5, the social and cultural layer, which often proves the undoing of fast, highly accurate learners, pragmatic competence.
This is knowing how to use language appropriately in context. It goes far beyond grammar and vocabulary to the invisible conventions of social interaction. This includes understanding politeness markers, recognizing indirect speech acts.
You mean like when a boss says, that proposal looks interesting, they might actually mean go back and rework it.
Exactly that, and adapting your speech formality to the specific audience.
So you could be grammatically flawless and speak at 300 WPM, but if you fail at pragmatic competence, you are not fluent because you'll just offend or confuse your listener.
Absolutely. Consider a learner who speaks quickly, but defaults to overly formal address because that's what they learned in a textbook. If they use highly formal, academic, polite structures with a close friend in a casual bar setting, they create this enormous social distance.
Or a learner who rapidly describes a problem using only technical jargon to a non-expert, failing to slow down and shift their register.
They've achieved high velocity and high accuracy for that register, but they have completely failed at the goal of communication because they were pragmatically incompetent for that audience. The truly fluent speaker takes their time, they read the room, they adjust their approach, and they carefully select words that bridge the social gap, not widen it.
This just reframes the entire discussion. It confirms that velocity is not only irrelevant, but actively detrimental to all 5 components of true fluency. Which leads us to the most counterintuitive truth for learners. The pause is not a mark of failure. It is, in fact, a hallmark of masterful communication.
Strategic, purposeful pausing is essential. Learners often view silence in conversation as this psychological chasm, a clear indication that they don't know the word or the grammar. They feel they must fill every millisecond with noise. But skilled communicators, fluent in any language, use silence as a powerful, deliberate tool.
What are the primary functions of these strategic pauses in high-quality communication?
We can categorize them into 5 critical functions. First, emphasis and impact. A pause placed immediately before or after a key phrase just amplifies its importance. Skilled political speakers, public presenters, they know this instinctively.
They deliver a powerful statement, then they pause, allowing the weight of the idea to sink in and resonate with the audience. The silence creates anticipation and gives the words gravity.
Yes, and that leads to function number 2, comprehension support. If you are delivering dense, technical, or complex information, pauses are necessary for ethical communication. They give the listener critical time to process what they have just heard, to categorize it, and to integrate it into their understanding.
Rushing through complex ideas just ensures the listener misses half of the message.
And in the real-time interaction of dialogue, pauses are the necessary infrastructure. Function number 3, turn-taking signals. A deliberate pause signals to your conversation partner that you're open to their response, or that you're transitioning from one idea to the next. It's an essential part of collaborative dialogue.
Without them, conversations would just become this frantic, inefficient struggle of interruption and overlapping speech.
Exactly. The 4th function speaks to the speaker's internal process thinking time,
which we discussed earlier regarding automaticity.
Yes. Pauses allow the speaker to engage in crucial internal planning. They organize subsequent thoughts, retrieve the most precise vocabulary, and structure the sentence effectively, rather than defaulting to the first, easiest, and often vague option. This deliberate thought process vastly improves the overall quality of the speech.
And finally, pauses convey emotion and add depth.
Function number 5, emotional expression. Pauses can convey gravity, consideration, surprise, or even suspense. They add a dimensionality to speech that pure velocity just cannot achieve. The pregnant pause speaks volumes. You can communicate far more with a few seconds of silence than with a string of hurried, empty words.
Okay, this requires us to draw a sharp distinction between that powerful strategic pause and the panicked, disfluent hesitation that learners are so afraid of.
The difference is primarily in the confidence of the delivery and the perception by the listener. A strategic pause is marked by confidence. The speaker maintains composure, appropriate body language, and they seem thoughtful. The listener perceives them as considering their answer carefully, which is a sign of respect.
But disfluent hesitation is different. It's often externally marked by anxiety.
That anxious hesitation is tied to visible markers of stress fidgeting, looking away, uncomfortable self-interruptions, and those drawn-out filler sounds like, The speaker appears lost or flustered, not deliberate.
So if I'm a learner struggling with that anxious hesitation, my impulse would be to just speak faster to eliminate the gap. but you are saying the key insight is to do the opposite.
Exactly. The solution to anxious hesitation is not to speed up and try to mask it. That only collapses your cognitive resources further. The solution is to become radically more comfortable with silence and transform that anxious, panicked gap into a confident, deliberate tool.
The goal isn't to eliminate pauses, it's to transform them from psychological panic signals into confident, purposeful breaks.
And you need to internalize this reframe. If I pause, I am not demonstrating failure. I am demonstrating professionalism and thoughtfulness. You are performing an act of self-respect and respect for your conversation partner.
So when you pause, you're showing that you care about finding the right words, that you're engaged enough to consider their point carefully, and that you're willing to deliver quality over simple speed.
Yes. Native speakers respect thoughtful, deliberate speakers. They only judge the panic-filled hesitation that signals cognitive overload. Simply slowing down and embracing the silence communicates competence, even if the eventual output is imperfect.
It's clear that prioritizing speed is conceptually wrong. But beyond the conceptual, we need to address how chasing this false metric actively damages the language learning process in several predictable structural ways.
Oh, the damage is significant, and the consequences compound over time. The first and perhaps most devastating long-term effect is what linguists call the fossilization of errors.
Okay, let's define that clearly for the listener.
When a learner rushes, they do not have the cognitive time necessary to apply the grammatical rules they have painstakingly learned. Because they're stressed for speed, they immediately fall back on the easiest, fastest retrieved patterns, which are often incorrect, simplified, or just approximations based on their native language structure.
And if they continue rushing in every conversation, what happens to those incorrect patterns?
They become ingrained habits, they fossilize, they shift from being conscious errors to becoming part of the learner's automatic underlying linguistic system. And once these incorrect patterns are integrated into the automated part of the brain, they are extraordinarily difficult to unlearn later.
So you've successfully built fluent inaccuracy, you're fast, but you're consistently wrong on the same core structures.
Exactly. The learner who chooses to speak slowly, consciously monitoring and applying the correct grammatical forms, even if they sound hesitant or inefficient now, is actually building a far better, more accurate foundation for the future.
They're building accurate automaticity.
Yes. While the fast but wrong speaker may sound more confident in the short term, they're creating massive long-term structural problems that require immense effort to correct. Speed ensures the wrong habits stick.
The second major casualty of the speed trap is vocabulary narrowing. This is particularly insidious because it limits the learner's ability to express nuanced thought.
When the priority is speed, the learner defaults to the words that are fastest to retrieve from their memory bank, regardless of precision or rhetorical strength. This is closely related to the tip-of-the-tongue phenomenon. When you rush, you don't allow your brain the necessary search time to retrieve the precise word. You just grab the closest, most common substitute.
So they grab good instead of reaching for exceptional. They use the generic thing when they know the precise word is mechanism or phenomenon.
Exactly. Their passive vocabulary, the words they recognize when reading, remains large, but their active working vocabulary just shrinks dramatically to the handful of words they can retrieve instantly. They prevent themselves from utilizing their full linguistic range.
Whereas the deliberate speaker uses that necessary pause to engage in the search process, reaching for the more precise term, and actively expanding and reinforcing their working vocabulary every time they speak.
Right. And the third major damage point is listening degradation, which turns conversation into a unilateral exercise in self-performance.
The obsession with achieving a quick response fundamentally damages the ability to listen effectively.
The speed-focused learner is anxiously rehearsing their own reply. They're working on their formulation and conceptualization while the other person is still speaking. They are half listening, half rehearsing. They're only processing enough input to know when the other speaker stops, leading to poor comprehension because they are not fully present.
Effective conversation requires fully listening, processing the entire input thoroughly, and then responding thoughtfully. The pressure to speed just cuts that critical listening phase short.
Which brings us to perhaps the most damaging effect: anxiety amplification. The speed imperative transforms every single conversation into an exhausting, high-stakes performance test where the speaker must constantly prove their fluency through rapid response.
And this chronic anxiety, this constant need to monitor the clock, is often a primary cause for learners hitting plateaus and eventually just losing motivation entirely.
It creates a state of monitoring language overload. The cognitive function dedicated to self-correction and evaluating performance just goes into overdrive. When practice feels punishing rather than rewarding, learners often quit, or they reach a functional level and simply stop improving, perpetually feeling inadequate because they are measured against an impossible, irrelevant stopwatch standard.
So we've established that native speech is messy, that slow and deliberate is often better, and that rushing damages the learning process. Now we need to step outside the classroom and look at the real-world variables, what native speakers actually do, and how culture changes the definition of ideal speed.
Reviewing the research on spontaneous native speech is so important for a final reality check. For instance, studies have found that native speakers deploy hesitation markers like approximately once every 4 to 5 seconds during spontaneous speech.
Every 4 to 5 seconds?
Yes. That means they are planning and hesitating constantly, even when speaking their own language.
So those hesitations are not indicators of failure. They are the standard cognitive machinery of human speech production, just running in real time.
They are evidence of online planning. The brain is literally starting to speak before the full thought has been linguistically formulated. Native speakers restart sentences. They reformulate mid-sentence. They use filler phrases like "the thing is" and so forth, specifically to buy time while the formulation stage catches up.
And their speed varies enormously.
Hugely. They might be at 90 WPM when explaining a complex technical subject, but jump to 180 WPM when recounting an exciting story.
And the errors, the ones we obsess over and punish ourselves for.
Native speakers make errors all the time. Grammatical slips, mispronunciations, using the wrong word choice. But the key difference is that they and their listeners usually overlook them instantly, or the speaker self-corrects seamlessly, and the communication simply proceeds. The goal is information transfer, not linguistic perfection.
It's interesting to note that there is data showing that as people become true experts in a field, they tend to slow down, not speed up.
Studies of expert communicators consistently reveal slower, more deliberate speech. This is a profound reversal of the speed myth. Expert teachers often speak slower than novice teachers, understanding that pacing increases student comprehension.
And expert negotiators are meticulously measured in their delivery.
Therapists and doctors use silence and pacing as primary deliberate tools to control the interaction and maximize the impact of key points. If true competence required velocity, experts would be the fastest speakers in the room. Instead, true competence involves knowing when and how to slow down for maximum effect and clarity.
Now, we have to recognize that the ideal pace is highly culturally and contextually determined.
Yes, we need to introduce the concept of high context versus low context communication.
Okay, explain the difference and how it affects the perceived value of speed.
In low-context cultures, like the United States, Germany, or Australia, meaning is expected to be explicit, direct, and efficient. Because communication relies less on shared history or nonverbal cues, velocity is often implicitly valued as a sign of clarity and efficacy. The conversational rhythm tends to be quicker, with less tolerance for long silences.
Okay, and high context.
Conversely, in high-context cultures such as Japan, China, or many Arab countries, meaning relies heavily on context, relationship, hierarchy, and what is not said. Deliberation and pausing are often explicitly valued as signs of thoughtfulness, respect, and consideration for the relationship.
So in Japan, for example, the concept of meaning purposeful, meaningful space or pause is integral to communication.
It is. And rapid, direct speech in these contexts can easily be perceived as immature, impolite, or shallow.
So, a speaker who is measured and thoughtful in Tokyo might feel awkwardly slow and hesitant in New York, and vice versa. The perceived ideal pace is entirely contingent on the cultural environment and local expectations.
And this extends to professional registers globally. In a high-stakes professional or academic context worldwide, measured, slower speech consistently signals confidence, control, and expertise. If you speak too rapidly in a global business meeting, it often suggests nervousness, lack of preparation, or that you don't truly value your own words enough to give them space.
Slower delivery signals confidence in your message and its value. This overwhelming contextual variability forces us away from the binary fluent, not fluent question and toward the fluency spectrum. We need a more complete way to think about what success looks like.
Fluency is not a switch you flip. It's an ever-evolving spectrum of capabilities. We define fluency as the ability to communicate comfortably and effectively across a variety of contexts. This allows us to break it down into 4 interconnected dimensions that map onto those cognitive processes we discussed earlier.
Okay, dimension 1, cognitive fluency.
This is the internal smoothness. Can you sustain thought directly in the target language, without translating. It's about ensuring the grammatical and vocabulary processes are automated enough to free up resources to focus entirely on meaning and strategy rather than the mechanism.
Dimension 2.
Perceptive fluency. This is the depth of understanding we talked about. Can you comprehend various accents, speeds, registers, and styles? Do you catch nuance, implication, and cultural reference reliably, or do you only grasp the surface level? This is your capacity for deep listening.
Dimension 3. Productive fluency.
This is the traditional output ability. Can you produce language that is accurate, grammatically sound, and pragmatically appropriate for complex ideas and diverse topics? This is the range and accuracy component.
And finally, Dimension 4. Interactive fluency.
This is the real-time management of conversation. Can you handle rapid turn-taking, manage unexpected conversational turns, adapt to different social dynamics, and successfully employ repair strategies when misunderstandings arise? It is the ability to maintain the dance of dialogue without anxiety.
By using these 4 dimensions and the spectrum model, we replace the paralyzing question, am I fluent yet, with the far more useful diagnostic question.
Like, in what contexts is my cognitive fluency high? Which of these 4 dimensions do I need to prioritize developing right now? It transforms the goal from an impossible standard into an achievable contextual process of continuous improvement.
This is where we turn theory into action. Now that we've dismantled the myth of speed and established this robust framework for true fluency, how does the learner listening right now practically shift their approach and liberate themselves from the stopwatch?
Step 1 has to be a psychological intervention. Redefine your goals. You have to stop fixating on arbitrary metrics like WPM or reaction time. You need to articulate functional, context-based goals that actually reflect communicative effectiveness in the context you care about.
Okay, give us some examples of specific, achievable, non-speed-based goals.
Instead of aiming for fast Spanish, aim for specifics like, I want to be able to comfortably discuss my work's technical challenges with a colleague in French, or I want to watch 2 specific German movies without subtitles and grasp 80% of the nuance, or I want to be able to tell a 5-minute-long complicated story in Japanese without getting stuck.
Those goals require comprehension, appropriate vocabulary, accurate structure, and confidence, none of which mandate maximum velocity. They focus on function.
Exactly. Step 2 is an active exercise in counter-conditioning that addresses the fear of silence. Practice slow production deliberately.
You need to actively embrace slow speech, even though that Pavlovian conditioning will make it feel profoundly uncomfortable and wrong at first.
But slow practice has compounding crucial benefits for building accurate automaticity. We need to turn this into a structured drill.
How does a learner make this deliberate and concrete?
We recommend the 5-second pause challenge. During any practice conversation with a tutor, a language partner, or even just speaking to yourself, intentionally pause for a full 5 seconds after your conversational turn before you start speaking. Force yourself to sit in the silence.
And use that time not to panic, but to consciously engage the conceptualization and formulation stages.
Give yourself the time necessary for accuracy development, to consciously apply the grammar rules, and for vocabulary stretching, to retrieve the precise term.
That deliberate timeout is also a powerful form of confidence building. You're proving to yourself repeatedly that pausing is not a catastrophe.
Yes, and the slow pace also forces pronunciation improvement. Rushing often covers up clarity issues and encourages phonetic sloppiness. Speaking slowly reveals issues that rushing hides, allowing you to build better articulation habits.
Which leads directly to step 3, develop comfort with silence. Beyond the 5-second challenge, the psychological ability to hold space is a critical component of confident interactive fluency.
You must practice transforming those anxious gaps into deliberate tools. When you speak, maintain eye contact and composure during the pauses. Don't avert your eyes or fidget. Project confidence while you are thinking. The goal is to notice that your conversation partner respects the pause, rather than judging it.
You're trading a panicked, rushed, low-quality response for a measured, high-quality, thoughtful response.
Exactly. Step 4. Focus on comprehension. Perceptive fluency is power. We established that listening and reading fluency is at least half the battle.
So pour massive amounts of time into extensive listening and reading. Expose yourself to diverse accents, speeds, and registers without the pressure to produce.
Use passive and active listening. Consider the shadowing technique, not for speed, but for accurate rhythm and intonation. Listening to a native speaker and speaking with them slowly and deliberately, focusing on the sounds and the flow, not the velocity.
When you build effortless understanding, when perceptive fluency is high confident, production follows naturally, without the feeling that you need to rush just to keep up.
And finally, we need to address the psychological trap of the plateau. Embrace the plateau as deepening. When you hit a period where you aren't speaking noticeably faster, the speed myth screams failure and makes you feel stalled.
But if we apply our new framework, we understand that you're not stuck, you're automating.
You are deepening your fluency. This is the necessary consolidation period where vocabulary you learn passively moves into the automated retrieval system. Your comprehension is becoming more nuanced. Your ability to manage conversations is improving. These are non-speed improvements that are essential for long-term growth.
You just have to accept that fluency is a spectrum and that the goal is comfort and effectiveness, not achieving maximum velocity. Find and embrace your own natural, comfortable, and effective pace.
Absolutely.
This entire deep dive has revealed a profound and liberating truth. The moment you stop measuring fluency by speed and stop fixating on performance metrics, the immense pressure just dissipates, and progress often accelerates.
The paradox is undeniable. When you stop obsessively trying to speak faster, you become a more fluent, effective, and thoughtful communicator. This is a direct function of cognitive resource shift.
The resources you were previously spending on anxiety, speed monitoring, and performance evaluation, that massive cognitive tax that sabotaged your accuracy, is now entirely available for authentic communication.
You are now able to focus entirely on the person you are talking to, on the full meaning they are trying to convey, and on selecting the most precise, appropriate words that best express your ideas. You become profoundly present to the conversation, rather than to your own performance anxiety.
And presence, authentic, attentive, engaged presence, is perhaps the best single-word summary of what true fluency actually is. You're not distracted by the stopwatch. You are simply there, connecting.
We can leave that dinner party scenario with a new definition. Fluency is the ability to communicate comfortably and effectively. It is having enough automaticity to focus on meaning rather than mechanism. It is understanding deeply enough to grasp nuance. And it is having enough range to handle diverse contexts. It is managing the flow, not maximizing the velocity.
But fundamentally, language exists for connection, to share ideas, to build understanding, to coordinate action, and to experience the world together. Speed is, at best, irrelevant to that ultimate mission, and at worst, actively harmful because it destroys the time needed for thoughtful selection and accurate production.
The speaker who rushes may miss the connection entirely. They're too focused on velocity to be truly present with their partner or their message.
So here's the final provocative thought for you to carry forward from this deep dive. The speaker who takes their time, who listens fully, and who speaks thoughtfully is fluent in the ways that actually matter, because language's ultimate mission is connection, and that connection is always, always worth the wait.